Hello, and welcome to Teatime Oddities, the podcast where we explore the strange and the unusual throughout history. I'm your host, Danielle. Today we will be discussing the haunted Hoia Baciu forest. So pop the kettle on, grab a warm cup of tea, and let's get started. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. Thank you so much for choosing to listen to my podcast today. I really hope that it's both enjoyable and unsettling. Today, we will be talking about the Hoia Baciu forest. And for my sake, I'm going to just say Hoia forest because for some reason my brain can't say the full thing every time. So sorry about that. But before we get into that, I wanted to mention the tea I'm drinking, which is a herbal tea. It is honeybush, mandarin, and orange. I'm not really a big orange person normally, but this tea smells and tastes pretty good. So those are both important for me. Sometimes the tea smells better than it tastes, and sometimes the tea tastes better than it smells. I don't know why I need to share that information with you, but now you know. All right, let's get into it. The Hoia Forest is located in Cluj-Napoca in Romania. This region once went by the name Transylvania, which I'm sure a lot of people associate that with weird things already. This forest is well known for having eerie occurrences, and often people claim to see both paranormal and strange activities when in the forest. The forest itself is around 250 hectares, which I had no clue what that meant, but I went on Google and it's about 618 acres. So it's not small, it is a very large forest. Many refer to the forest as the Bermuda Triangle of Transylvania, which pretty fitting considering this forest does have some very odd things in it. I want to talk a little bit about the area itself before we get into the actual forest. This area was once occupied by the Roman Empire, but was later abandoned. And at one point, when it was part of Hungary, it was Transylvania, which obviously everyone associates Transylvania with Dracula. The forest is actually 4 hours away from Bran Castle, which is what people believe is the inspiration behind Bram Stoker's description of Dracula's castle. This area has taken many names over the years, but now the area goes by Cluj-Napoca, and hopefully I said that correctly. After World War II, this area officially became part of Romania and is now just known by Cluj-Napoca in Romania. The trees in the forest are, I don't even know how to describe them besides like Tim Burton trees. The best way I could describe them is that they grow sideways and they almost have like a humanness to them because they look like they could just like move at any moment. If that wasn't weird enough, there's also no reason that the trees should be growing that way. Scientists have tested the soil and done a bunch of other, sciencey things, and they cannot find a reason for why the trees grow in such an odd way. The middle of the forest itself has a large empty area of grass where trees are either unable or unwilling to take root. So if you do like an aerial view of the forest, there's just this giant empty part in the middle, and it's almost like a complete perfect circle. It's very weird. The disappearance of peasants were some of the first reported anomalies in the forest. The name Hoia comes from a local shepherd who reportedly disappeared from the area along with his 200 sheep. It is estimated that over 1,000 people have gone missing in the Hoia forest. Another tale tells of a young girl who entered the forest and disappeared, only to reappear 5 years later with no memory of what had occurred. Many who enter these woods report intense feelings of anxiety, unease, rashes, nausea, migraines, scratches, burns, and many other oddities, which honestly is just me anytime I go to a social event. I'm now going to discuss a few stories that are alien related. I want to have a disclaimer here. I personally do not believe in aliens. I'm sorry. So I am very much a skeptic when it comes to this, just as a warning. I'm sorry if we disagree on this subject. In 1968, Emil Barnia, who was a military technician, captured a photo of a reported flying saucer. I looked up the image for this, and honestly, it kind of looks like a water droplet is on the lens of the camera, but I'm sure many people feel very differently about that. In the 1960s, yet again, a biologist named Alexandru Sift captured a photo of what appeared to be a UFO hovering above the trees. And in the 1970s, there were also many reported sightings of UFOs and strange lights within the forest. Many of the images, when I looked up Hoia Forest UFO on Google, were not convincing to me. I mean, most of them looked like either they were photoshopped or they just looked like some anomaly. I personally don't know. I can't speak for it, but it was not convincing to me. For me personally, the most convincing aspect of this forest having something spooky going on with it is definitely the trees. I mean, obviously, I'm not saying people haven't disappeared here or that there's not anything else going on. I don't know how accurate all these stories are. I think that goes for a lot of, stories people tell, is the truth kind of gets mixed up with the urban legend aspect of it. The forest, however, is not only known for its legends, but it is frequented by people for hiking trails and bike routes. So, despite the stories of hauntings and supernatural occurrences and maybe some alien occupation, people just can't help but want to admire and appreciate the odd but intriguing beauty of this forest. I personally would love to go here. This place is very picturesque and it just looks like, conventional, like beautiful forest. And I also want to see like one of those trees up close because honestly, in the photos, it looks fake. I don't know how to describe it any other way. Well, that concludes our discussion of the Hoia Forest. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you enjoyed this episode of Teatime Oddities. Make sure to keep the kettle on and check in next month for another episode. Goodbye.